In this presentation, we're going to look at test preparation. This could be for any kind of test. It could be a standardized test that you take in your state. It could be the ACT or other kind of national standardized test, or it could be the kind of test that's at the end of a unit or a midterm or a final exam for a class. We're taking a look specifically at different kinds of writing styles that you may run across in your exams. Now, there are probably 24 or more different writing styles that exist and will come up on tests. We are only going to hit the top 9 because these are the ones that we tend to see most frequently on exams. Feel free at any point within this presentation to hit the pause button so that you can take notes on any of the information, or also go backward to a previous slide if that would be useful to you. Alright, so how do you know what to do? You're taking a test, you're given a prompt. How do you know exactly what they want you to do to move forward? First thing you want to do is read that prompt very closely and look for key words that suggest to you what they want you to do. We're going to go through this in depth with each of the different writing styles so that you've really got those keywords. Second thing I want you to take a look at is to evaluate who your audience and purpose should be, and ask yourself the question, what is wanted from you? So what does the test want you to do? When you're looking at writing prompts, there should be keywords that stand out to you that indicate what you're supposed to be doing on that particular piece of writing. I've got 4 examples of prompts here. Let's take a look at these and look at what would the key words be that would stand out and help indicate to you what to do. First one, present your argument with logical support to convince the reader to agree with your viewpoint. Here we've got present your argument and convince the reader. Those phrases stand out to me and tell me that I need to write something persuasive. Perhaps it's a persuasive short answer, anywhere in the range of 1 to 3 paragraphs, or perhaps it's a full essay, which typically is a minimum of 5 paragraphs. But I know regardless of how long my writing will be, I definitely will be writing persuasively to answer this prompt. The second example here, explain your thoughts as to why the main character was considered to be a weak man until he found the sword. Our very first word here, explain, tells us exactly what to do. We know by that word explain that we'll be writing something expository, explaining this information. Again, it may be short or it may be long, but we know we will be explaining, not doing anything else in this piece. Number 3, after reading the article of painting, summarize the steps. The phrase there at the end, summarize the steps, that should jump out at you and tell you exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're going to be summarizing, so you're not going to be including your own opinion or any other information that's not already in that article. And number 4, determine the best course of action and present your analysis in an essay on the following pages. The word analysis should jump out at you, and the word essay. So we know that we're going to be doing an essay, so therefore minimum of 5 paragraphs, and we know we're going to be doing an analysis. That instantly gives us specific information about how to move forward. Audience and purpose can be a little bit tough when you're taking a test. And the reason is because in normal life, you have a real audience and a real purpose to your writing. So let's say that you're writing a newspaper article. You have real readers for that newspaper article and therefore a real audience. Your purpose is to include all of the correct information for that newspaper article. So that's a pretty authentic situation. When you're taking a test, it can be a little bit hard because the information that you're including for your audience and purpose aren't authentic. You're inventing them. Ask yourself the questions, who is your audience? What do you need to tell them? And how will you best achieve your goals? And just know that it's going to be a made-up situation since it is a test. Now keep in mind that there are a lot of different writing styles out there, and some of them are even combined writing styles. But we're going to cover the basics so that you have a pretty clear understanding about the majority of writing styles that you'll run across. This is our list here: persuasive, expository, narrative, analysis, comparison, contrast, descriptive, reflective, summary, and synthesis. That's what we're going to be covering today. Keep in mind there are others, but this is what we're going to hit for today. In persuasive writing, your purpose is to convince your audience to agree with you. That's what you're shooting for. Your best tactics in persuasive writing is to use logic, reference experts, and start with a strong thesis statement. A weak thesis will just destroy persuasive writing. Things to avoid are steer clear of strong emotion and accusations. That can really turn off your reader, and you won't convince anybody to agree with you if you've made them mad. Here's an example thesis statement. Although some question the educational value, taking a senior trip to Europe offers teen students incredible learning opportunities. You can see here we've got a strong thesis statement. We could move forward with either a short answer or an entire essay. Keywords and prompts that you may see for persuasive writing are included here: persuade, convince, agree, and so forth. Expository writing. I think every exam has some kind of expository writing included there, where you will explain your knowledge on a particular topic or explain what you've learned. Your best tactics are to be very thorough, assume your reader knows little on the topic, and be very clear. Some of your pitfalls, things not to do: assume your reader already knows what you're talking about, skipping the details, and not explaining. Those can be problems. Here's an example thesis for you. Even though my family travels annually and has taken many wonderful vacations, our trip to New Zealand was by far the best. That's a thesis statement that you could use for an expository paper. Keywords that you may see for an expository prompt: expository, explain, elaborate on, and so forth. There are others, but these are just some of the ones you might run into. Next is narrative writing. This is when you're telling a story or sharing an experience. Your best tactics with narrative is to use a really standard plot structure and to give a clever reason for your story. Readers tend to like this, such as a moral or a lesson learned. Pitfalls are to include only one story element, such as character, to over-exaggerate your emotion, or to be too plain. You want to kind of hit narrative right in the middle. A thesis that could work out well: no matter how many people tell you that entering a jalapeno eating contest is a great idea, don't do it. You can see here we're set up for finding out about a jalapeno eating contest that went wrong. Keywords and prompts you might run across: tell a story, tell a tale, narrate, and so forth. Analysis and evaluation can be pretty similar to expository. They have a lot of crossovers. The purpose for analysis and evaluation is to share information, to solve a problem, to find the heart of the issue, to reveal all levels of knowledge, or to answer a question. It can be some combination of that as well. Best tactics are to be very clear, to stay on track, and to meet your specific purpose, whatever that prompt is asking of you. Pitfalls are to wander off track, to not answer the prompt, or to give too much opinion. You want to keep the majority of opinion out of analysis and evaluation. An example thesis statement may be: even though some novice scientists believe that global warming untrue, data clearly shows that 99% of scientists and research data support it as fact. We could then move forward into an entire piece giving analysis and evaluation of information. Keywords that you may see in prompts could be analyze, evaluate, examine, and so forth. Comparison or contrast. This is how you show how two or more things are similar or different. Best tactics are to stick with one or the other and to use a very strong thesis statement. Pitfalls are to try to prove that things are similar and different. Especially for high schoolers, it makes a terrible thesis to do that. Here's an example thesis that does work. Since ancient times, people have sought out the similarities between classical Greece and Rome, but their treatment of women could not be more different. Therefore, we're going to go into a paper that's all about their differences, acknowledging that they have some similarities, but the paper is going to be about differences. Keywords you may run across: compare, contrast, show the similarities, define the differences, and so forth. In descriptive writing, your purpose is to describe the details of something. Ways you can do this are to include your sensory details like sight, taste, touch, and so forth, and assume that your reader knows nothing. Pitfalls are to assume too much of your reader, to explain instead of describe, to use too few details, or too many opinions. An example thesis might be: since the dawn of time, people have sought out the best ingredients for the staff of life, bread. Keywords you may run across: description, describe, characterize, construe, and so forth. In reflective writing, this is the memoir style here. This is where you look back and express what you learned about an event or experience. This is really an opportunity to demonstrate maturity in your writing. Best tactics: be humble, be clear on what you learned, and get your audience's agreement. Pitfalls are turning off your audience by being outrageous, accusatory, or bitter. Those just tend not to work out well with reflective writing. Your audience needs to sympathize with you in this style for it to work well. A thesis could be: regardless of how many times my mother told me to save my money, I had to learn the hard way. And keywords you may run into in prompts: reflect, look back upon, lesson, or moral. In summary writing, you're simplifying an original piece of writing with no additions or deletions. A summary should typically be about 10% of the original piece. Don't add your own opinion, thoughts, reflections, just leave it all out. You would not include a thesis for summary writing. You're just summarizing. Okay? Don't include any of your own information, only information from the original text. And finally, research or synthesis. This is some pretty high-level writing. This is what you do on a research paper. You're taking information from multiple expert sources and using them to support a strong thesis statement. You need to have very good organizational skills to do this, and you need to document your sources, which means to say where the information came from. A thesis could be: using the facts. Until the facts were compiled, Americans were uncertain as to the complications caused by genetically modified foods, but today the research results are clear. You may run into research, compile, synthesize, arrange, or any of these other words for a research question. When you're preparing for tests, the more that you can be prepared, the better that you're going to do, because you're going to be more relaxed. Things are going to be easier for you, and that is definitely something that we want. Take a look over these writing styles, make sure that you're familiar with them, practice writing thesis statements for them, practice doing some preparation for them, and that should help you feel really comfortable so that when you go in to take a test, regardless if it's a state standardized test, a large test, or a test for class, you should feel pretty comfortable going in to do that. Good luck with you on your tests.